You're watching Northern Crimes.
The dense, shrouded forests of Clark County, Washington hold a certain allure, their beauty concealing mysteries within their ancient trees and shadowed paths. It was here, among the towering evergreens and peaceful trails, that a series of horrifying events unfolded in the early 1970s, shattering the tranquility of this landscape. On a crisp autumn day in 1974, a hunting party stumbled upon a chilling discovery in the remote Dole Valley: the skeletal remains of a young woman, later identified as 17-year-old Martha Morrison. This macabre find would eventually unravel the dark legacy of Warren Forrest, a man whose name remains etched in the annals of the Pacific Northwest's most sinister tales. This is the true story of one of the Pacific Northwest's forgotten serial killers. And this is Northern Crimes. Warren Leslie Forrest was born on June 29, 1949, in Vancouver, Washington. Not much is known about his childhood, but as an adult, we know he was a seemingly ordinary man who harbored a very dark side. Convicted of 2 murders and suspected of many more, Forrest's reign of terror from 1971 to 1974 left a chilling mark on the region. His known victims include 20-year-old Krista Blake and 17-year-old Martha Morrison. But the true extent of his crimes remain a haunting mystery. Forrest's pattern of abductions, assaults, and murders paint a grim picture of a predator lurking in the shadows of the Pacific Northwest. Krista, a vibrant and adventurous 20-year-old, often hitchhiked as a means of travel, a common practice back in the 1970s. Her trusting nature, however, led her into the clutches of Warren Forrest on July 11, 1974. She was last seen climbing into Forrest's blue van. Her remains were found 2 years later, bound and showing signs of buried in a shallow grave on Tukes Mountain. Martha was a musically talented and free-spirited 17-year-old from Portland, Oregon. She disappeared in September 1974, and her remains were discovered a month later in the dense woods of Dole Valley. It would take over 4 decades and a forensic breakthrough to finally connect her murder to Forrest, providing some closure to her family. The story of Warren Forrest's crimes begin with the disappearance of Krista Blake. On that fateful July day in 1974, she was last seen getting into a blue van driven by Forrest. Her body, discovered 2 years later, revealed a horrifying scene. Her hands and feet were bound, and she'd been subjected to severe mistreatment before being strangled. Martha Morrison's remains, found in a remote area of Dole Valley, were similarly disturbing. The skeletal state of her body made it difficult to determine the exact cause of death, but the presence of her blood on Forrest's dart gun linked him irrevocably to her murder. The breakthrough in the cases came from testimony of a survivor. In October 1974, Forrest lured a 20-year-old woman from Camas, Washington, under the guise of a photo shoot. Instead, he shot her with darts from an air-powered dart gun and left her for dead. Miraculously, she survived and provided detailed information that led to Forrest's arrest. A search of his home uncovered the dart gun, and decades later, forensic testing matched Martha Morrison's blood to the weapon, sealing Forrest's fate in her murder. While Forrest was convicted of the murder of Krista Blake and Martha Morrison, he is suspected in several other disappearances and deaths. Jamie Grissom disappeared in December 1971. Her school ID was later found in Dole Valley, but her body was never recovered. Barbara Ann Derry was last seen hitchhiking in February 1972. Her body was discovered in a silo. Diane Gilchrist vanished in May 1974. She was never found. Gloria Nadine Knutson disappeared in May 1974. Her remains were discovered years later in Lacamas Lake. Carol Platt Valenzuela was last seen in August 1974. Her skeletal remains were found close to Martha Morrison's. Forrest's method of abducting young women, often hitchhikers, and the consistent presence of the blue van tied him to these cases, though definitive evidence has been harder to obtain. Warren Forrest trials were fraught with drama and intense scrutiny. In 1979, he was convicted for the murder of Krista Blake and sentenced to life imprisonment. Decades later, advancements in DNA technology led to his conviction for Martha Morrison's murder in 2023. The jury, moved by compelling evidence and survivor testimonies, reached a guilty verdict in just 90 minutes. The cases linked to Warren Forrest had a profound impact on the community and law enforcement practices in Clark County. The persistent efforts of investigators, coupled with advances in forensic science, brought long-awaited justice for some of the victims. However, many families continue to seek closure for their missing loved ones. Forrest's story serves as a grim reminder of the hidden dangers in seemingly peaceful communities and the relentless pursuit of justice by those dedicated to solving cold cases. The tale of Warren Forrest, the forgotten serial killer, is a haunting saga of abduction, murder, and the long road to justice. As we reflect on the lives lost and the enduring pain of their families, we're reminded of the importance of perseverance in the face of darkness. The scars left by Forrest's crimes may never fully heal, but the relentless quest for truth and justice ensures that his victims are never forgotten.